Hi, I'm Mike Bellevue, and today we're at Fort Ligonier in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, and it's a French and Indian War era fort that's been recreated here, and let's take a look at what they have to offer. All right, just to orient you when we're actually inside the fort walking around, I'm going to show you our route of travel so you'll have an idea of where we are. So we're going to start off here in the Visitor Center, and we'll go through the museum, and as we leave we'll be going up this pathway here. Now this area that used to hold the artillery park is now under construction. They're building a new historical center, but we'll enter by this sentry box and gate through the outer retrenchment. We'll go over and we'll look at the West Battery. Then we're going to enter the Facine Battery, and we'll take a look at the cannons over there. Then we'll enter the fort proper. We'll look at the officers' mess. We'll look at the enlisted men's quarters and storerooms. We'll go down into the powder magazine. We're not going to hit the armory, which probably we should have, but then we'll exit the fort. Then once again we'll be at the outer retrenchment. We'll go over to Forbes' hut. We'll visit the East Battery, and that'll basically wrap up the trip. So my son Rob was joining me on this trip, and we're going to start off now with the Visitor Center. The museum features a couple of overview models and maps of the fort like this, but the real cool thing in the museum is the collection of French and Indian War artifacts, which is really top-notch. These are cannonballs, musket balls, and buckshot recovered from the area. The museum is small, but it does a great job of covering the French and Indian War, 7 Years' War, as it was known in Europe, in all of its theaters around the world, because it really was a world war. It was fought in North America, it was fought in Europe, it was fought in the Indian subcontinent, and in Africa and the West Indies. And the museum does quite a good job with each of those theaters. One of the highlights of the museum is a pair of pistols that George Washington actually used during the Revolution. They were presented to him by the Marquis de Lafayette. We've got quite a collection of brass cannons and mortars here in one of the redoubts. We've done a pretty good job of reconstructing this, though in the 18th century this highway probably wouldn't have been here. Well, I've decided if the apocalypse comes, I'm going to get a bunch of friends. We're going to take this fort over. I bet it'll do as well as it would in the 18th century. With these cannons, we've got to keep the bad guys away for a while. We've got a dry moat surrounding the fortifications. You can see how they reinforce the bank. Got another artillery battery here, small mortars, some field pieces. See how they built the Facine bundles. Now my son Rob is going to man one of the small swivels here, and here's just a look at some of the howitzers and cannons mounted in the Facine battery. And now we're going to enter the fort proper. This is the officer's mess. I've seen worse. One of the barracks rooms. Pretty snug billet in here. We'll go take a look. Here's one of the barracks rooms for the soldiers. I use that same blanket myself when I'm out on the trail. Very snug. Though, during the French and Indian War, this was actually a storeroom. And the soldiers had to sleep in tents and huts. And here's one of the storerooms. Very well supplied. This would be the bags of flour that Colonel Bouquet hauled to Bushy Run out of the storeroom, just like this. The quartermaster's office in here. You'll notice the desk is positioned right under a window, which would have been the main source of light for working. And then we've got the whiskey and rum barrels over here. They're empty, I checked. Well, we are down in the depths of the powder magazine, and I know it's going to be hard to see anything in here because we are well underground, which is the way you want a powder magazine. Now we're standing outside of the walls of the fort proper again, and we're between the fort and the retrenchment. And just over to the left of the screen is the hut that Forbes was in. This structure is Forbes' hut, which he had constructed for himself when he was very sick, making the final advance to Duquesne. Well, this is fairly small. It's only 10 or 12 feet square on the inside, but it's a pretty snug billet. And this really is about the best that you could ask for. This is a height of luxury, even for a general officer out on the far frontier. That's the end of our tour of Fort Ligonier, and I hope you enjoyed it. I've got to say, I think it's very well done. It's small. It was a small post, but they did a fantastic job rebuilding it. The museum is high quality. It's small, but everything is top-notch in it. And all in all, I think it's well worth the trip.